Hello and welcome back to Centered by Courtney. My name is Courtney. I am a sound healer and I'm excited to chat with you this week. So this week I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about setting boundaries around the holiday season. I know last week we touched on tips of like avoiding burnout during the holiday season, but I think there's a really big piece of setting boundaries during the holiday season that can be very challenging for people and makes it kind of complicated to go around the holidays. And so I wanted to touch on this a little bit, talk a little bit more on why I think it's so important to set your boundaries, to be able to communicate those with people, especially in your family, and to be able to find those peaceful moments for yourself. So first off, I want to acknowledge that the holiday season has its own unique challenges, right? We're trying to fit in, things at kids' schools, your nieces and nephews, your own children, grandma and grandpas, cousins, all these different things, along with travel and, purchasing gifts. And it's just like a bunch of stuff all at once. And so really figuring out what works best for you and your family, I think is very, very important. And especially like I've learned getting married that me and my husband are our own family and we get to make the decision of what do we want to do for the holidays and what does that look like. And I think it becomes complicated for people, especially when you have larger families. Like me and my husband don't have a crazy big family, so that's kind of nice in the aspect of trying to get everything in. But we've seen over the years, like growing up, for my parents were both high school sweethearts that grew up in Minnesota, and I lived most of my life in Michigan. And so every holiday season, around Christmas, we would drive out to Minnesota from Michigan. It was about a 12-hour drive in a shit ton of snow and a lot of stuff going on. And we would come out and spend, a week for the holidays. And I think when we started to realize, I was still a little bit younger at this age, that as much as it was amazing to see everybody, everyone was so busy with their holiday traditions. And so we stayed at my grandparents, which was awesome, got to spend a lot of time with them. But when it came to the actual holiday, everyone was jumping from household to household and trying to get in their family time. And I think our family, my parents, my sister and I kind of realized like, okay, like we drive all the way out here. We see people for a couple of hours on the one day. And that's kind of what everyone has available because it's busy season. And so as a family unit at that point, we decided, all right, maybe we're not going to come down for Christmas, but in like the new year or around 4th of July, we're going to do something big with the family every year. And so instead we would go down to Marco Island, Florida and just do because it was an easy drive down and do like our own little family vacation over Christmas. And I think for the rest of our family, that was like kind of shocking at the beginning. Like, why aren't you coming down? What's happening? And why are we doing that? But I think it just made the most amount of sense for our family unit. And so I think there's a big piece of in the holiday season, figuring out what your boundaries are and what you want to do for the holiday season. And so my husband and I were talking about this, having kids and what would we do for, the holiday season? We normally go to church every Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. Like, what are we going to do with a young child when we get to that point? Either they're going to be up super early or like it's going to be unwrapping Christmas gifts time. And so I think there's this piece of you first need to figure out what are your boundaries. What are you planning on doing? How many people are you going to see? What is that going to look like? What makes sense for your family? And I think what really starts to come into play is holiday traditions. Like every year we would drive to Minnesota. That was our tradition. And I think it's okay to change traditions and do what's best for you and your family. And like we found out going down to Florida was such a beautiful time to relax and reconnect as a family and pause during all of these moments. And that was kind of like our gift to each other. And we loved it. We did it for so many years. And now fortunate enough, we all live here in Arizona, so we don't have to go very far. But setting your boundaries with all of this. And so I know the season has its unique challenges and everybody has their different family dynamics, but like understand what that is first and then figure out what are your boundaries. And I think there's a really big piece of your boundaries are so important in your healing journey and like as you are more, as you're kind of going through this. And I think the biggest piece of that is I kind of noticed, and we touched on this with Nina and I in the podcast, that when I spend time with my family, I tend to go back to like old patterns and old habits. And I just want to let you know, like, that's completely okay. That is like a normal thing that happens, and you wake up and you're like, whoa, like I am not, don't normally do this. And, and so it's just one of those things where it's like, I tend to always eat a healthy breakfast. But then of course around Christmas and you get up Christmas morning and someone's having a big breakfast, like you're not gonna like not eat it. You can choose not to, but I'm saying like, those are things that I kind of fall into. I'm like, oh, okay, like I can let that lax. But there's some things that I know that I need to do before I see everybody. Like for me, I'm a big person of like, I need to have my morning ritual. Now, mind you, not like Christmas morning. I'm like, everyone hold up, I need to meditate. You could do that, definitely. Like, but I would suggest, especially if you have young kids, like wake up before them and, get that in if you're going to. But really find those things. And even it might just look different for this time of year. Like maybe you waking up Christmas morning and like work out every morning. Maybe you guys go for a family walk after breakfast. Like figure out what works for you. And I think there's a big piece in your healing journey of like, you got to be perfect. You got to have all these boundaries. You got to tell everybody no. And obviously like no is a full sentence. Like, let me say that again. No is a full sentence. If you choose not to do something and you've set up boundaries, it can be very challenging for people to understand this new version of you. And what I've come to find too is especially with our parents and maybe like older siblings, it's one of those things where maybe they always see you as like one version of you. Like a parent will always see their child as their child, and maybe they don't see these newer versions of you and this healing and these different things you're going through, and that's okay. You don't have to have, everybody's not going to heal at the same time. And some people may never go through different pieces of that, and that's okay. So just make sure you know your boundaries, all the things you've done in your healing journey. It's okay to slip up and have a moment. I really want to say that because I feel like that happens. But just get back into it, next day, jump back in, figure out, okay, oops, I didn't journal this morning. I know that helps me. Oh, I feel like crap today. Let me do some extra journaling or do an extra meditation. Figure out what works best for you and kind of stick into that. So I would say some practical tips for setting boundaries during the holidays are figure out what your boundaries are, kind of like set up some non-negotiables. So, for me, it's doing a meditation. Like I got to find a time during the day. Like maybe if I don't get it in the morning, maybe it's like I go chill for an afternoon nap and listen to a meditation as I'm falling asleep. Like I got to find a time for meditation. So figure out what it is that you need. Is it going for a walk? Is it making a healthy breakfast? Is it, whatever it is, figure out that is doing a little clearing, that type of thing. Making sure that you know how to say no, but compassionately. Like, yes, no is a full sentence, but it doesn't need to be thrown around like, no, I'm not doing that. You can obviously just be like, hey, I'm so sorry, but like that doesn't work for me, or nah, not this year, but thanks. Make sure you understand that in this journey, because everyone's not on the same journey, it's okay to say no, but just say it compassionately, have a little bit of empathy. Everybody is going through something different, and you may not know truly what's happening in their lives. And then here's my favorite. Plan a little exit or escape sometime during the holiday season. Like not like a vacation, but even if it's like, oh, you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you're going to be there for 5 hours with your family. Okay. Plan like a 2 to 3 minute bathroom break that you're like, I am going to go, or maybe it's like, I'm going to go plan to look through my purse. And it's like your moment. You go in, you take 15 deep breaths, you recenter yourself and you pause. Like that could be your little mini escape. I love doing that. Like that is one of my favorite tips, is like just plan like, okay, I know that like this person is going to be challenging. And like when I need that moment, I know that I'm going to go and rummage through my purse or through the bathroom and just take a quick pause, kind of like be prepared for that type of stuff. So I think that's super important. And then communicate your boundaries in advance. So maybe you guys have a holiday tradition, and as you're going through it, you realize like, oh, like this maybe doesn't work for me anymore. So say maybe, I don't know, I'm making this up, like your family has like we all take shots on Christmas Eve, and you're like, oh, I'm like really slowing down on drinking. Communicate that ahead of time. Like, hey guys, maybe a week or 2 weeks in advance, like, hey, I'm not really drinking anymore. So I was thinking like I could come up with an option. Like I can come up with a really fun like lemonade shot I can take with all of you guys that has no alcohol in it, or a really fun mocktail, or whatever family tradition that you have. Make a version that makes sense for yourself, and make sure you stick to that and let people know ahead of time, especially like the host, if your mom's hosting, or, some family member, like, hey, I know this is a part of our big tradition, but if you're okay with it, or, I'm eating differently. I'm curious if I could bring, a gluten-free pie, like whatever it is. Just want to let you know, you don't have to change your plans like crazy, but like, here's something that, I'm doing a little bit more of. So I would say that's kind of my tips for that. And just really just normalizing your boundaries with your family and friends. And I know that takes a lot, and it takes sometimes months and even years to fully set in those boundaries. It will get there. Don't panic about it. It's okay if things slip. It will all be fine. But just know that, like, you can always pause, take a walk, take a step outside, do whatever you need. Have that little mini escape to kind of like recenter yourself. And I honestly just think the biggest thing here is just like honor your inner peace. When we look at all of this, it's like make sure that you're honoring yourself, taking that time, figuring out what's in your toolkit, making sure you feel great during the holiday season. And I know this can be a really challenging year for people, if you have a loss in your family or, difficult things happen during the holiday season. And so, take a pause, you know, come back into this however, makes the most amount of sense for you. But, maybe add a little bit more magic into it this year. Like, even though maybe you've had tough ones previously, bring a new like perspective on it. Or even just if you've hated the holiday season and maybe you're open to seeing new things, like instead of like going all out with family, maybe it's just like taking a walk through a park or through I love it, like there's outdoor malls here in Arizona, they like go all decked out. And so I feel like it's almost nice just to like watch people and walk and see this and get some fresh air and just kind of see how people embrace the holiday season and get different perspectives on what's happening. So anyway, these are kind of my how to set boundaries, chat about boundaries during the holiday season. Make sure you figure out what your non-negotiables are. Make sure you figure out what's in your toolkit. Make sure that you've planned these little mini escapes and you set your boundaries with your family, and be very comfortable saying no compassionately. I think that is super important. So yeah, let me know how it goes, and I'm always here for you. I have a lot of different sound healing experiences to help you relax and reset. So if you're looking for some other things to add into your toolkit, always here to help. And if there's something you're like, ooh, I wish you could make this, I'm always open to new ideas. So if you have any fun ideas, drop them below. And I'm excited to chat with you soon. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Bye. Hello, and welcome back to these mindful moments. Today, we're going to do a little sound bath on setting boundaries, especially for the holiday season. Find a comfortable place to sit down or lay. Close down your eyes. And let's start by taking a few deep breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. As we approach this holiday season, we know we'll be coming up to a lot of commitments, holiday parties, time with our family and friends. During this time, as we've been on our healing journey, we remember and are working to reinforce our boundaries, taking moments for ourselves to recenter, restore, and ground, so we can show up in this best version of ourselves. We remember that no is a full sentence when used compassionately. We remember to let our family and friends know of the boundaries that we've set, so there will not be any surprises. We stand firm in these boundaries. We support our choices. We give ourselves grace if we don't stick to everything during the holiday season. We know this is a time of magic and a little bit of chaos. And so we pause to give ourselves grace to handle and to love whatever comes, and to enjoy the time we have with our friends and family.